you ever met someone who suddenly announced, "I am already awakened. I have seen through everything"? And instead of feeling peaceful around them, you felt a strange heaviness or even discomfort in your heart. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, maybe I am already enlightened? Maybe I am not like these ordinary people anymore? And then later realized that something about that thought actually made your mind more agitated, not more free? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. I am really glad you are here, because today we are going to talk about a trap that many sincere practitioners fall into without even realizing it. The trap of careless speech about enlightenment, attainment, and spiritual level. In a lot of traditions, people say that one arrogant sentence like "I am already enlightened" can cut off your wisdom life, like chopping down a young tree just as it begins to bear fruit. That sounds dramatic, even scary. But if we unpack it slowly, we will see that it is not superstition. It is deep psychology and deep karma. In this long, story-based sharing, we are going to walk through what enlightenment really points to, why casually claiming it can be more dangerous than being honestly confused, and how speech about your spiritual state can plant seeds that either open or close the door of awakening. We will talk about the subtle ways the ego disguises itself in spiritual language, how boasting or hinting at attainment harms not only you but also people who listen to you, and how humility, silence, and honest language can actually protect and nourish your wisdom life over many years. We will do this in simple, human scenes: friends chatting after a retreat, someone posting online about their awakening, a practitioner struggling with doubt, a teacher trying to guide students without creating unhealthy worship. As always, we will keep circling around the core themes of this channel: awakening, wisdom, karma, compassion, practice, and destiny. Let us begin with a question that sounds simple but is in fact huge. What do you think enlightenment is? Some people imagine enlightenment as a permanent mood of bliss, a state where all problems disappear, where the person never gets angry, never feels sad, never gets confused. Others imagine it as a kind of spiritual achievement badge. Once you get it, you are superior to ordinary people. Your words become unquestionable. Your status is guaranteed. Some imagine it as a supernatural upgrade. You can see past lives, read minds, and control your own destiny at will. If you unconsciously carry one of these pictures inside, you will relate to the word enlightenment in a very particular way. You might crave it as an escape. You might use it to judge yourself and others. You might use it to decorate your ego. But in the original sense, awakening is not an identity or a medal. It is a clear seeing into the nature of reality, impermanence, non-self, cause and effect, emptiness, and compassion. It is not a personal trophy that says I am special. It is a deep, lived realization that there is no separate I to cling to in the way you used to. If that is the case, then a very strange paradox appears. The deeper the awakening, the more clearly one sees the emptiness of the self, the less interested that person is in saying, "I am enlightened." It is not shyness. It is simply that the sentence does not make sense anymore. Who is this I that is claiming enlightenment? What is this enlightened thing that can be possessed? This is why, in many stories, the truly awakened ones speak very lightly about their state, or do not talk about it directly at all. Instead, they point you back to your own experience, your own investigation of mind and reality. Their presence is stable, their compassion is wide, their wisdom is clear, but their mouth does not rush to label themselves. Now let us look at the opposite. Imagine someone who has had a powerful experience. Maybe during meditation, they felt their body vanish and a sense of boundless space appear. Maybe they had a huge emotional release and felt very light for days. Maybe they saw through a core belief and felt free in a way they never did before. All of these can be meaningful openings. But if they immediately jump from "I had a strong experience" to "I am enlightened," they may be stepping onto a slippery slope. Why? Because the moment the mouth declares "I am enlightened," the ego that wants to be special, to be above others, to be finished, gets exactly the food it loves. And instead of continuing to observe and dissolve, that ego is now wearing a spiritual robe. It becomes harder to question, harder to see, harder to let go. Let us step into a story to see this more clearly. Imagine a man named Alex. He is in his early 30s, working a regular job, but for years he has been secretly searching for something deeper. He reads books from sages, he listens to talks about mindfulness and non-duality. He attends retreats on weekends. One day, during a silent retreat, after many hours of sitting, something shifts. His mind, usually full of thoughts, suddenly becomes very quiet. His sense of me as a separate entity softens. He looks at a tree outside the window and feels, in a very immediate way, that the boundary between me here and tree there is not as solid as he thought. There is just seeing happening. There is just breath, sound, color, sensation, without a tight owner. Old worries about his career, relationships, and future vanish for a while. There is a deep peace, and maybe even a gentle joy. If the retreat ended there, this would simply be a beautiful awakening experience, a window into the way reality actually is. But when the bell rings and the retreat ends, Alex goes back into a world of words. A few people at the retreat talk about Sho, Satori, glimpses, non-dual awakening. He feels his experience matches what some of them describe. A thought appears. I did it. I woke up. He goes home, and the normal stresses start to return. He still feels irritation when the subway is crowded. He still feels hurt when his partner criticizes him. But now, instead of honestly observing these reactions, part of him thinks, I cannot be reacting like this. I am already awakened. So, he pushes the unpleasant emotions down, or denies them, or covers them with spiritual phrases like it is all empty. It does not matter. One evening, in a discussion group, someone asks, has anyone here actually awakened? There is a pause. Alex feels a strong mix of pride and fear. His heart beats faster. The thought, I should say it, I should own it, arises. He imagines how others will look at him differently, maybe ask him for guidance, maybe respect him more. At the same time, another thought whispers, are you sure? Are you really finished? But the desire to be seen as special wins. He clears his throat and says, calmly, but with a little performance, I had a clear awakening last month. I see the illusion of the self now. From that moment, a subtle prison begins to form. Outwardly, his status in the group shifts. People start asking him questions as if he is a teacher. Some look at him with admiration, some with skepticism. Inwardly, he begins to feel pressured to live up to the label he just gave himself. When anger or jealousy arises, he is ashamed. Instead of examining them honestly, unlearning, he either hides them or forces them down. He does not want to be seen as unenlightened. Over time, this inner conflict grows. Part of him knows he still has deep patterns of fear. ego, and attachment. Another part of him is now invested in maintaining the image of awakened one. Whenever someone questions him, he becomes defensive. Whenever someone else shares a deep insight, he feels threatened, like his place on the spiritual ladder is under attack. Slowly, the fresh, innocent curiosity that was present before his experience dries up. Instead of practicing to see more clearly, he spends a lot of energy guarding an identity. Instead of bowing to the mystery that is bigger than him, he subtly sets himself above others. Instead of letting the experience humble him, he uses it to inflate himself. From the outside, he is more spiritual than ever. From the inside, his wisdom life is suffocating. This is what it means when people say that one careless sentence about enlightenment can cut off your wisdom life. It is not that some angry God hears your words and punishes you. It is that your own ego grabs those words and builds a cage with them. Your mouth gives your delusion a crown, and then your heart must serve that delusion. Now, you might say, all right, I see that openly bragging, I am enlightened, can be dangerous. But what about lighter versions? What about hinting, or letting others assume I am special, or casually saying things like, since I awakened, in conversation? These are just as tricky. Speech karma is not only about literal words, it is about intention. If you hint at spiritual superiority to get respect, loyalty, or advantage from others, you are planting the same kind of seeds. Even if you do not use the exact sentence, I am enlightened, the karmic direction is similar. Let us look at another scenario, one that is very common in our age of social media and self-branding. Imagine a woman named Jenna. She has practiced meditation seriously for several years. She has worked through trauma, learned to regulate her nervous system, faced difficult emotions. She also has had some deep insights into impermanence and non-attachment. Her life is genuinely better now, and she wants to share that with others. She starts an online channel where she teaches basic mindful lessons, self-compassion, and simple philosophy. At first, she is honest about where she is. I am a student on this path. I share what has helped me. I still have many blind spots. People resonate with her authenticity. Her audience grows. As the numbers rise, she begins to feel pressure to keep them. She sees that some other creators use strong language. I am fully awakened. I have transcended suffering. I live in permanent non-dual awareness. Their videos get a lot of clicks. Their comments are full of devotion and worship. A small envy stirs in her. She does not want to lie directly, but she also wants to sound more impressive, so she begins to adjust her language. She says things like, when you wake up from the dream, like I have, or from my stable non-dual perspective, even though she knows, in her honest heart, that her perspective is not stable at all. She has deep glimpses sometimes, but she also has days filled with doubt and old habits. Every time she exaggerates like this, she feels a small pinch of unease in her chest. Her inner truth knows that her words are not fully aligned with reality, but the praise from followers and the growth of her platform feel good. So she keeps going. This is speech karma at work. Outwardly, she is drawn more and more into the role of someone beyond. Inwardly, she becomes less and less able to be honest with herself and others about her struggles. The parts of her that still need healing are pushed into the shadows. They do not go away. They simply wait for their chance to explode. When, inevitably, some crisis happens that shows clearly she is not yet as free as she claimed. The fall is painful for everyone. Followers feel betrayed. She feels shame. And the most tragic part is this: the natural, beautiful wisdom she had genuinely developed becomes tangled in a net of deception. The river of her practice, which could have flowed steadily if she stayed humble, is now blocked by a dam she built with her own words. This is why many ancient teachings warn so strongly about claiming spiritual attainments or even hinting at them. It is not because humility is a religious ornament. It is because humility is the protection of your wisdom life. Let us take a deeper look at this word, wisdom life. Your wisdom life is like a fragile but powerful flame that has been lit in the dark room of your consciousness. It is the part of you that cares about truth more than comfort, that wants to see reality clearly even if it shakes your identity, that is willing to practice patience, compassion, and insight across years and lifetimes. This flame is not guaranteed. It needs fuel, honesty, discipline, study, reflection, loving kindness. It also needs protection from winds that can blow it out: pride, lies, spiritual laziness, and, especially, distorted speech, because the mouth is the bridge between your inner world and the outer world. Every time you use it to twist or inflate the truth about your spiritual state, you are throwing dust and confusion onto that flame. If you repeatedly speak in ways that separate you from others, that paint you as above or finished, you slowly lose access to the beginner's mind that is essential for further growth. You stop listening deeply to criticism. You stop asking questions. You stop admitting confusion without realizing it. You become allergic to the very attitudes that nourish wisdom. From a karmic perspective, this is very serious. Speech is one of the main ways we create karma, because it influences not only our own mind, but also the minds of many others. When you boast about enlightenment, you are not only misleading yourself, you are also potentially misleading others about what the path actually looks like. Imagine a vulnerable person who is suffering, desperate for freedom. They hear you claim permanent awakening and believe you. They may project all kinds of fantasies onto you, obey you without discrimination, even ignore their own inner guidance because they think you are beyond error. If you are not actually established in deep wisdom and compassion, your guidance may harm them. Sometimes the harm is subtle, sometimes it is very concrete. Confusion, dependency, abuse. In that case, your speech has created karma not only in your own life, but also in theirs. The law of cause and effect is not sentimental. It does not care about your intentions alone. It also counts the results. If your careless claim of enlightenment causes others to fall into delusion, you plant seeds for future confusion in your own path. All of this may sound heavy. You might be thinking, then should I never talk about my experiences? Should I keep everything secret and silent? That is not necessary either. The point is not to become mute. The point is to speak from humility, clarity, and usefulness, rather than from pride and the need to impress. There is a huge difference between saying, I had an experience that gave me some insight into non-self, and it really helped reduce my anxiety. I do not know if it is enlightenment, but I can share what I learned. And saying, I am enlightened. I have transcended fear. Follow me. The first kind of speech invites others into exploration and keeps you grounded in honesty. The second kind freezes you in an identity and tempts others into blind faith. Let us now explore another angle. Why are practitioners especially vulnerable to this trap? You might think that people interested in spirituality would naturally be more humble, but in reality, Studying awakening can actually make ego more subtle. Before, your ego might have been proud of money, beauty, or status. Now, it might become proud of how detached you are, how compassionate you are, how much you meditate, how much scripture you have memorized, how many retreats you have attended. And above all, it may crave the label awakened as the ultimate spiritual trophy. This is sometimes called spiritual materialism, using spiritual ideas and experiences as things the ego can collect to feel superior. When this happens, practice, which is supposed to dissolve the false sense of self, is instead used to reinforce it. It is like using medicine as a drug to fuel your addiction instead of to heal. One of the clearest signs of spiritual materialism is a fascination with ranking. Who is more awakened? How advanced am I compared to others? Has my teacher confirmed my level? You see this in conversations where people constantly compare experiences, dropping subtle hints to place themselves higher. In such an environment, speech about enlightenment becomes a currency of status. People say or imply things not only to communicate truth, but to climb an invisible ladder. The mind becomes obsessed with where it is on that ladder instead of focused on seeing reality clearly. If you are honest, you might recognize this tendency in yourself in small ways. Maybe you felt secretly pleased when someone called you wise, deep, or advanced. Maybe you felt secretly threatened when someone else described a profound experience you had not had. Maybe you have daydreamed about others respecting you as a teacher one day. None of this makes you a bad person. It simply shows that the ego instinct is still alive. The key is not to pretend you have no ego. The key is to notice when ego is influencing your speech and to gently turn away from feeding it. How can you do that in practice? One powerful way is to adopt a few internal guidelines about how you will talk about your spiritual journey. First, commit to describing experiences as experiences, not as permanent states or identities. For example, say, during meditation, I felt a strong sense of openness and non-separation, which lasted for some hours and reduced my fear. Rather than, I am now in constant non-dual awareness. Second, be honest about what you still struggle with. If you share an insight, also share that there are areas where you are still learning. This does not make your insight less valuable. It makes it more believable and safe. Third, avoid making claims about having finished the path. Instead of saying, I am enlightened, you can say, I have understood some things that bring me peace, and my practice continues. I am still learning every day. Fourth, do not lean on external certificates of attainment to build your identity. Sometimes in certain renditions, teachers give confirmations of stages to students. These can be helpful as private guidance, but if you use them as marketing material or as weapons in spiritual debates, you are likely misusing them. Remember, no paper, no title, and no recognition can substitute for your own honest awareness of your mind. Fifth, whenever you feel the impulse to impress others with your path, pause and check what you are really hungry for. Is it love? Is it respect? Is it safety? A lot of the urge to claim enlightenment is actually the ego begging for validation. If you can see that, you can address the need more directly through self-compassion, therapy, honest friendships, rather than through inflated spiritual talk. Let us bring in another story, one that illustrates what humble speech looks like in a practitioner with deep insight. Imagine an older man named Ravi. He has practiced for decades. He has spent many years in retreat, but also many years working in ordinary jobs, raising children, paying bills. Over time, his understanding has deepened. and his life shows the fruits. He is less reactive, more patient, more compassionate. People naturally feel calm around him. You might think he would be eager to call himself enlightened. But when younger practitioners ask him, "Have you attained enlightenment?" he smiles gently and says something like, "I have understood enough to see that my ignorance is bigger than I thought. I can share what has helped me, but please do not put me on a pedestal. Use your own eyes." When people praise him, he often redirects the attention back to the teachings themselves. "If you find any wisdom in my words, it comes from the Dharma I received, not from me as a person. I am just someone who has benefited from it and is trying not to waste this life." Does this mean he is secretly enlightened but pretending not to be? Not necessarily. It means that he respects the mystery of awakening enough not to shrink it into a badge. It means he understands how easily others can become attached to personalities and how harmful that can be. It means he values his wisdom life more than the sweet taste of admiration. From a karmic viewpoint, such speech protects him and others. It keeps the door open for further insight, because he does not close it with a declaration of completion. It allows people around him to be inspired without becoming blinded. At this point, you might be wondering, but what about traditional stories where teachers are clearly recognized as awakened? What about masters who openly guided many disciples? Are they not allowed to speak about realization at all? The answer is that context matters. In some cases, a teacher may need to speak clearly about their realization in order to encourage students to cut through doubt or to fulfill a specific function in a lineage. Even then, the truly wise ones do it with great care, responsibility, and often reluctance. They do not shout it from rooftops for their own benefit. They speak only enough to serve the path, not to decorate the self. And even in those cases, many of them warn students not to imitate that speech lightly. They say, in essence, if you have to wonder whether you are enlightened, do not worry about enlightenment. Just practice. They understand that for most of us, focusing prematurely on our level is more harmful than helpful. Now, let us turn more directly to the idea of speech karma. How exactly does what you say shape your destiny? Imagine that every word you utter is like a seed thrown into the field of your own mind and the minds of others. Some seeds grow flowers, some grow weeds, some grow trees, some grow poisonous plants. When you repeatedly speak humbly, honestly, and kindly, you are planting seeds of clarity and trust. Your own mind hears your words and aligns with them. Others feel safe with you. When you repeatedly speak in ways that exaggerate, conceal, or distort the truth about your spiritual state, you are planting seeds of confusion. Your mind hears your own lies and begins to believe them. The line between what you genuinely know and what you pretend to know becomes blurred. Other people's minds are also influenced by your words, and they make choices based on illusions. Over time, this accumulation of speech karma can lead you either toward a destiny where you become a trustworthy guide, a humble companion on the path, or toward a destiny where you become a cautionary tale, someone who went high on words but fell hard because the inner reality did not match. It is important to see that speech karma does not operate only in some future life. You can see its effects quickly in this very life if you look closely. For example, if you boast about enlightenment and then behave in obviously unenlightened ways, people eventually lose trust in you. They may stop listening to anything you say, even the parts that are true and helpful. In that sense, you have killed your own ability to benefit them. This is one way your wisdom life is cut. Another example, if you claim to be finished, You may stop seeking advice, stop reading, stop meditating deeply, stop examining yourself. Your practice plateaus or even deteriorates. In that sense, you have cut your path short with your own mouth. Conversely, if you stay humble and clear, you will continue learning from everyone and everything. You will not be afraid to say, "I do not know," or "I made a mistake." People will feel they can grow alongside you, not beneath you. Your wisdom life will keep unfolding. At this point, you might feel a bit nervous, thinking about past conversations where you may have spoken carelessly. You might be asking, have I already damaged my path by saying things I should not have? If so, please breathe gently. Panic is not helpful. The same law of cause and effect that registers harmful speech also welcomes sincere correction. One of the most beautiful things about the path is that you can always begin. If you see that your words have been inflated or misleading, you can acknowledge it to yourself and, if needed, to others. You can say, "In the past, I exaggerated my spiritual level. I was attached to appearing advanced. I see that now, and I want to be more honest going forward." Far from cutting your wisdom life, such confession waters it. It takes courage to admit what ego has tricked you. That courage is itself a sign of awakening. You can also dedicate time in your practice to examining your relationship with enlightenment as a concept. Ask yourself deep questions such as what do I imagine will change if I become enlightened? How much of that is about freedom? And how much is about feeling superior or safe? Do I secretly look down on those I consider less awakened? When I do, how does that affect my compassion and my communication? If a truly awakened being walked into my life and I did not know their title, what qualities would I feel around them? Humility, kindness, deep listening, or loud proclamations of their own greatness? These reflections do not require you to judge yourself harshly. They simply invite you to bring the light of awareness into dark corners where future trouble could grow. Now, let us turn toward the positive side. If claiming enlightenment prematurely is dangerous, what does it look like to protect and nurture your wisdom life through speech? It might look like this. You meet with fellow practitioners and share honestly. Recently, I had an experience where my sense of self dropped away. It was beautiful and freeing. At the same time, I still see many patterns in me that are not free. I am careful not to call that experience final enlightenment because I do not know. I just know it motivates me to continue practicing. When younger people come to you for guidance, you say things like, "These teachings help me deal with suffering. They are powerful, but I am not perfect. Please do not believe me blindly. Test everything in your own life. Keep your own wisdom awake." If someone praises you too strongly, you gently redirect. If you see something good in me, it is because of the Dharma and the kindness of my teachers and companions. I am happy if my practice inspires you, but remember that you have the same potential. If someone asks, "Are you enlightened?" you can respond with humor and honesty. Some days I feel a little more awake. Some days I feel very human. I am not attached to the label. I care more about whether I am less harmful and more loving than before. In your own mind, when a thought appears like, "Maybe I am already enlightened," you do not panic. You also do not cling to it. You simply note it, thought about being enlightened, and return to observing your present experience. Are greed, hatred, and delusion completely absent? Is your compassion toward all beings completely unbiased and spontaneous? Is your wisdom unshakable in all circumstances? If not, then there is nothing to claim yet. This gentle, honest attitude allows you to keep your focus where it belongs, on the next breath, the next kind word, the next opportunity to practice patience or generosity, the next moment of letting go. Over years, this creates a life that is aligned with awakening, not obsessed with the label of awakening. Whether or not you cross some invisible threshold of full enlightenment in this lifetime becomes less important than the fact that you are genuinely becoming a little less ignorant, a little less self-centered, a little more compassionate and wise each day. In the end, what truly matters is not what you say about your enlightenment, but how your presence affects the world. Do people feel more free, more kind, more clear after being with you? Does your life reduce suffering or increase it? Do your words point people back to their own deepest wisdom, or do they bind them to your personality? If, as you walk this path, you keep your speech aligned with humility, honesty, and service, your wisdom life will be hard to cut. Even if you stumble, your willingness to admit and correct will keep your flame alive. If, however, you feed your ego with big claims and use spiritual language to lift yourself above others, you may find that the light in you dims, not because truth has left you, but because you have walked away from it. As we come toward the close of this long reflection, I want to turn gently toward you. Have you ever felt the temptation to call yourself awakened, even if only silently in your own heart? Have you ever dropped hints about your level to impress others, and later felt a strange emptiness or discomfort afterward? Have you ever been hurt by someone else's inflated spiritual talk, perhaps trusting them more than you should have because of their claims? If you feel comfortable, you are warmly invited to share your experiences in the comments. Your honesty might help someone who is right now standing at the edge of this same trap. Perhaps they are about to declare something that will complicate their path. Hearing your story may give them the courage to stay humble, to keep practicing, to protect their wisdom life. If this sharing has given you even a little more clarity about how to relate to words like enlightenment on your journey, I invite you to support this channel. You can subscribe so you do not miss future videos where we explore awakening, wisdom, karma, compassion, practice, and destiny in very human language. You can like this video so that more people dealing with these subtle issues can find it. You can leave a comment to join this circle of reflection, because your voice and your journey truly matter here. And if you feel called to support the channel more deeply, you can consider becoming a member. That kind of support helps us continue to create long, thoughtful content that does not just give you quick tips, but walks with you through the deeper questions and hidden wraps of the spiritual path. Thank you, sincerely, for staying all the way to the end. May your mouth become a protector of your wisdom life, not a weapon against it. May your words about your path always be rooted in humility and truth. And may your destiny be shaped not by the pride of saying I am enlightened, but by the quiet, powerful sincerity of someone who simply keeps waking up, breath by breath, with compassion for themselves and all beings. At the end of the day, we all need something that brings us back to ourselves. Something that reminds us to slow down, breathe, and stay centered. Simple bracelet can do exactly that. Every bead you touch brings your mind back to calm, back to clarity, back to the present moment. If one of the bracelets you just saw resonates with you, you can find the purchase link in the video description and explore more beautiful styles in our channel store. Let the one meant for you find its way to your wrist.